Hello, and welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and I'm a congenital amputee of the right hand. In this show, I will interview other amputees and allow them to tell you their incredible life stories. I'll also feature family members of amputees and others who support the amputee community, all in an effort to discuss the challenges and triumphs of those living with limb loss. So stick around and listen to inspirational stories and find out why we say, we're not stumped. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and today I have Ashley Ramirez on. Ashley is someone that met me through this podcast, and she's always been very supportive of the podcast, and I can't thank her enough. She's very early on in her journey, but I did reach out to her and ask if she wanted to be on, and she was so gracious in saying yes. So first of all, Ashley, thank you so much for being on the We're Not Stumped podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We always start the podcast with a segment I call In Your Own Words. So I'd like everyone to hear your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name's Ashley. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved here last year. I'm an insurance agent for Allstate, and I was working out in Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, and I had a great opportunity to pack up, bring my son out here to Atlanta. So we came out here, and just this past November, I was in a car accident. The day after Halloween, I was headed to go get dinner, and I ended up, a lot of it's blurry, but I ended up in a car accident where a guardrail came through the front of my car and severed my left calf and pinned me in the car. And then a couple of days later, after waking up in the hospital, it did get, I had a couple of revision surgeries, and now I'm an above knee amputee.
But at first, I think you were saying earlier that there was a chance that they were going to try to save as much
False
of your life.
hope. Yeah, false hope. What happened was that they have a trauma team, right? When you have an emergency, the trauma surgeons are there. They tried to save. So the first time I woke up about a day and a half later, and I was still below the knee, but it's wrapped. You really can't tell what's going on down there. And then they told me that they were going to take me in to basically clean up the wound. That, mind you, I'm on pain pills. I'm out of it.
Yeah.
Take that with a grain of salt. And then I woke up a day later, and I was about 4 inches above my knee. And basically what I was told, and I was very mad at my surgeon until, I should have asked him what happened. There just wasn't enough muscle or tissue there for it to be feasible for him to keep it. And so instead of having me drag on the process and more surgeries, they just took it.
What do you remember from them, if anything? Like you were saying, you're on a lot of medication. What do you remember about losing your leg and what your mind was telling you?
I remember looking down at my leg and being pinned in the car and seeing the actual trauma. But I somehow got a girlfriend of mine on the phone who lives out here. And I called her and I told her, I'm like, I need you to come. I was only a block away from my house. I was only going 30 miles per hour. I somehow, in the construction zone, I hit some equipment, blew a tire. Okay. From my recollection, I was just going over to pull over. Mm-hmm. Black after that. Wow. And then I came to a little bit. I had, the fire trucks around me, everybody trying to resuscitate me. And then I don't remember anything for about a day and a half. So it's all mixed up, but that's the gist of it. But yeah, that happened November 1st, and I've been living my new life since then.
And I know you have a son named Christian, and I want to ask you some questions a little later, but I was just curious about your son. Was he in the car with you at the time?
Thank goodness no. So he was playing his PlayStation. I was headed to Wendy's to go get some chicken nuggets. I mean, such like doing the everyday mundane thing, and he was completely okay. So I'm really I'm beyond me, that this is just the time. If it has food to do with it, he wants to go. But thank goodness he was locked in on his PlayStation that day. And like I said, I was able to get a girlfriend on the phone who lived down the street. And immediately she was there, and she had my son until my mom came when she flew in from Utah.
Yeah, you said your mom, as you just said there, your mom flew in from Utah and spent. She's still there now, if I'm not mistaken?
I just moved her out here in April, but she was out here for the first initial 6 months. I do have a younger sibling who's 20, And she left him and came out here, and I just needed her. And he's such a good kid. He really stepped up, his first time kind of just being on his own as a young adult, um, and really stepped up and took care of the house, and made it so she was able to stay with me during this time.
Well, shout out to him. That's fantastic.
Marquise,
So,
yep, he's awesome.
as you're sitting there in the hospital, what is going through your mind initially? When some of the medication wore off and you're thinking a little clearer?
I was in denial. I mean, I think they I don't know if it's the 10 or 12 stages of grief, you know, immediately it was denial. I wouldn't let them show me my leg. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want them to ask me anything. Obviously, you have an open wound. Doctors are going to come in. They need to look at it. They would bring up a sheet because I would freak out. So that's the first couple of days. Complete denial. I didn't want to think about it, anything. And then it started to sink in, especially after the second surgery, when it's above my knee. And I'm in my hospital room, and, I'm having this conversation with God. I mean, just going back and forth, like, what did I do? Could I have done anything else? Blaming myself, because it's not only does it change my life, I have a 10-year-old, changes, the trajectory of his life. Am I not going to be, all these things come running in my mind. And I decided to make a decision. I'm going to choose life, and I'm going to choose to be as positive as I can be through the pain, through the difficult times. I mean, I was even in the hospital within the first week. I fell. I fell and reopened my wound. So I did this like all within the first week, and I decided like this is like within the day of it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give it everything I got, because what am I going to do every time I fall down? This surely can't be the first time I'm going to fall down.
And did you learn? I guess you did learn from that experience.
I don't do it as much now, but it's something where it's like a reality check, because at first you're not even wanting to acknowledge that it happened. This is a bad dream. I'm going to wake up. And then it starts to sink in, and I decided, I'm like, I'm going to choose life. I don't care how hard it's going to be. I don't care what it looks like, how I'm going to look like. It's going to happen. I can still be a mom with one leg. I can still be a friend, a daughter. I can still be a good person, with one leg. So I think that's what made the biggest difference, especially being so early on in the journey.
Which I think you still are very early on in the journey.
Oh, yeah.
I think everything that you mentioned is definitely something that maybe we all go through. Now, I didn't lose anything. I was born this way, but there's still some things that come up. And one of the ways you're giving back is what you do on TikTok. How is that going for you?
Yeah, so I'm steadily getting followers on TikToks. I think I have over 25,000 views at least one of my videos.
Wow.
It's not a lot to a lot of people. It's a lot to me.
Well, talk about why you're doing it.
The why I'm doing it is because those views are going to people who actually are going through this. There's other young people. TikTok is for the young. I before this accident, I don't care about TikTok. I'm in my 30s. I don't care about TikTok that much. But I realize that the people that are going through this, people in other countries, people who don't have access to other support groups, the younger people that are, losing their limbs in their 20s, their teens, they don't have anyone else to talk to or go to. Because I did find, as I started, well, that's how I found you, Googling and searching for people who were going to help me on this journey, because I knew immediately I needed to start figuring out, how am I going to do this and how are other people doing it? But I noticed that there wasn't a lot of younger people. And you either see the extreme kind of older people or people who are very athletic. I'm neither. I'm like in between. And I wanted to show people like what happens, on the good days and the bad days, on the days you don't want to get up and go to physical therapy and the days that you do. And so I just wanted, a lot of that came too from, I think we had mentioned Felicia Robinson, watching her, and, just the little things like, yeah, I don't feel like putting on my leg today. It hurts, or this is what I do when I don't feel like it. How do I get over that? And it just inspired me that I wanted to be that for other people too.
While you are doing it, and you mentioned Felicia Robinson, that she was on, I think, season 2, maybe episode 2. Just what a great person. Her website is Cut Above the Knee. For those of you listening that may want to go to it, Felicia is fantastic. She actually lives in the same area.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same town. I mean, it's kind of like here in Phoenix, or Mesa, Tempe, Chandler. I'm sure there's a lot of different places in Atlanta.
In the same state. Yeah, we're in the same state. So hopefully I'll run into her one of these days and show her my new boot goofing with my new leg. But it would be awesome. But it's all of those things coming together, and I realize, you know, especially the messages that I get a lot of people from Latin America that message me. I mean, I'm seeing kids, you know, they're losing their legs and they don't have a microchip process their knee. You know, they're doing this basically either like on a swing unit. I'm not sure what they're called exactly, but they're doing with a lot less, and they're living their lives to the fullest. And I'm like, you know what? Absolutely. So I mean, it's something to take away from everybody. I think I'm learning a lot from other people too that message me and reach out to me, because I'm learning a lot from other people's journeys as well.
That's what I'm trying to do. And when you reached out to me, you actually left a comment on one of the videos that I had out there, one of the We're Not Stumped podcasts. And it meant everything to me that, hey, maybe somebody is listening. And thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you again, you're one of the first people I found. Felicia was one of the first people that I found, and a couple of others that I just can't think of off the top of my head. I'm missing a couple of brain cells, but it really helped me in some of my darkest times, or listening to all the different types of people and the different situations, and to know that I'm not alone. I mean, that's half of it, right? It's just knowing that this isn't unfortunately, it's not a unique situation that I'm in.
When you say you're not alone, go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it just made that much of a difference, just knowing, before I ever was able to speak with you or reach out to my other support groups. It meant the world to me that I wasn't alone, you know, when I felt really small. And so it made the difference.
Well, it's happening within your world, and that is a tough thing to go through. When you're talking about some of those other support groups, I think Hanger is one that you made.
Yeah, they have a women's support group that actually I'm going to be attending. I believe it's every third Wednesday. It makes a difference, you know, it really does.
It does. And there's one that I know that I attended with Leslie Green. Does that name sound familiar?
No.
Hanger. Yeah, I think she's fantastic, and she's with Hanger. Beth Eubanks is another one. They've been very kind to me at a lot of times, even though I no longer wear a prosthetic. That might change. You never know. I'm certainly not against prosthetics. I always have them in the background here, my old ones, so I know how important they are. So we talked about Christian a little earlier.
Yeah.
Now he's going into 6th grade, you said?
Yep. I officially have a middle schooler. Pray for me.
Yeah, this leg thing's no problem. I got a middle schooler now. Now we need to talk.
Yeah, exactly. He actually just turned 11 yesterday. Yesterday was his birthday. So he told me now, he said, it's official, Mom. And he's so funny. He said, I'm no longer a child. I'm an adolescent. I just sound like a child. And I'm like, okay.
That's so fantastic. So, but how was he through your process? It's got to be traumatic for him as well.
Yeah, he didn't want to come near me for about a month or two. And the way that that it was very hard for him to come to the hospital when he did come. I didn't necessarily show him, this is what happened, but I kept myself covered. He didn't want to come near me, and that hurt for a while. And he is autistic, so we had a discussion more on his level, very black and white. And I'm like, when you're ready and you have questions, you can ask Mommy anything. I'm going to be okay. I think that's the main thing any child is worried about. It's like, is Mom going to be okay? Yeah. And I told him, I'm going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. And so just keeping up on that promise. But eventually, I have a very dark humor. So we would be sitting on the couch, and then I would like sneak my stump over to him. But I definitely We had our moment in the beginning, and then I had to warm up to him. And then, like I said, I have a very dark humor. We make fun of it. I have a name for my stump. She dances. So we just try to make light of
Oh
everything,
yeah. That's,
of the situation. So he doesn't feel like it is a serious thing, but it's not serious for him to worry about,
and
you
you've
know?
actually spoken at his school. You told me that earlier.
Yeah. So I went to his class, and we we got to speak to the kids, and they kids say the funniest things. Um, and they're very honest, and that's what I can really appreciate about them. I know that when I go to the grocery store, I don't wrap up my stump. So if it's hot in Georgia, so I'm wearing shorts, I'm letting it all hang out. Kids in the grocery store will look at me, and I'm like, it's okay. You can ask me if you know what happened. They'll ask me, and I'll tell them a different story every time. I try not to make it as grim as what it was. I told them I got attacked by a shark in Lake Lanier.
Love that.
Shark, yeah. And they're like, wow. Or just telling them, I lost it, in a bet, just something that's a little bit more lighthearted than what it is, but to let them know that it's okay, and it's okay to stare. I mean, I'm fine with it. I like attention for the most part. I'd rather people ask me, but it's okay. I mean, I've come to a point in my journey where I'm starting to accept the new me. And if anybody likes it or not, if you don't like it, don't look at it,
Yeah. Yeah.
type of thing. So, but I'm starting to feel myself again and to be comfortable in my own skin, which I think is important when you lose a limb.
Oh gosh, and again, since I was born like this, I can only say, I can only imagine, because I don't know about that. But one thing I do know that's pretty interesting that you kind of paralleled. I always thought, I don't even remember how young I was, but I might have been 5 when I started thinking this. When people would come up to me, I always thought, hey, I'm going to be as nice and respectful as I can to all people, so it'll help the next person down the line. Because if I was a jerk to that person, I bet you that they would think all limb loss people are jerks. So I never wanted to be that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's one of those things to where everybody's different before this, right? Everybody's different. They have their strengths and whatnot. I'm coming out of the mind frame that I'm in a deficit because I'm missing my leg. And I think that, even to you, like you're born this way. You're not, even when I look at you and it's the way how you are, you're not in a deficit to me. You're not any less of a person, a whole being. You're still 100% when I look at you, or even when I look at other amputees. But when it happens to you, it's a lot easier said than done, you know.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. And we were talking earlier before we hit record here, and you were talking about the mental part as opposed to the physical. Can you talk about that a little bit and what that means to you?
Yeah, mental health is a hell of a thing. And I think something like this can either make you or break you. It can take you to a very dark spot, and it did for me. I go to therapy. I recommend therapy for anybody, but especially after going through a traumatic event. But my thought process and negative thoughts, I had to cut it out again with the choice, because I can't make it through the pain. I suffer a great deal of phantom pain, and from some of my other injuries that I sustained in the accident. So I do have chronic pain, but I could sit here and bitch about it, or I can try to think about something nice. Now, it doesn't take the pain away all the time, but the state of mind and your mental health is so important when you're going through this, because if you don't take care of it, it's a slippery slope, to backtrack. And yeah, there was, like I said, I know it was very in the very beginning, but there's days I don't cancel my physical therapy. That's one of my rules for myself. I don't cancel physical therapy, and it's because I always feel better after I go. But there's days, you betcha, where I don't want to get up. I don't want to put on my leg. I don't want to do these things, but I'm going to do it because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to be better for it, and I'm going to feel better for it. So that's been my struggle, definitely, is just keeping negative thoughts at bay, which I think that goes for anybody if they lost a limb or not.
Yeah.
So,
It sounds like that's a great recommendation that you just had. Hey, we all feel like maybe not getting up and doing for you going to therapy, you
Right.
always feel better afterwards. So that's something that you would recommend, I take it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that I like to talk about on my TikTok, besides my other doctor's appointments and updates, it's that there's a lot of those times where I drag my butt. I mean, it's probably for people who work out. Well, you are working out at physical therapy, but it's just like when you're going to the gym, you don't want to go to the gym at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
But but you feel better after your run. And it's one of those things to where it's helped with my mental health. And I think that the physical therapy and being accountable to yourself has really made a difference in my journey.
And let's talk
This
about,
part.
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm good at that. I think there's a
No,
delay.
I think we do have a delay. So yeah. So if I'll do my best in the editing room to make sure that delay is kind of compressed. What I was going to ask you about though, you're certainly in the early stages of your own prosthetic journey. And what is that like going through starting and then where you're at now and then where you're going to be headed here
Yeah,
shortly?
no, I think this is horrible. Not horrible, but like I watched a lot of people on, TikTok, Felicia, asking questions and kind of, what should I expect? I think the first thing is having a prosthesis that you feel comfortable with, one that you feel like you're being heard. Not any question is too small. If you feel uncomfortable, is this normal to feel this way? I have an amazing prosthesis. So I know that that is half the battle, to where I can be in there with him going over every little detail. So he was with me. He came to the hospital while I was still hospitalized, and he got me going on a shrinker. He's the first person that called and checked on me. I mean, I just have a great prosthesis. I just really do. And he goes out of his way to make sure that his patients are taken care of. And if you don't feel comfortable telling people about what you're feeling, and like I know it's going to be a lot of work. I'm kind of that type of person naturally. Like I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to have to go in. He just did all this work. He's like, "No, you have to tell me." And I think just being honest with your doctors about what you're feeling and what you're going through is the most important thing that you can do. And so getting through that and being more comfortable with him. Um, Honestly, the prosthetic journey is getting ready for your prosthetic. I go 3 to 4 times a day to physical therapy. I've done that since I've left the hospital in December. So um, I didn't get my prosthetic until April. So I spent 5 months getting ready for it, and I can't tell you how much that it makes a difference of getting your hip, getting your balance, getting your strength up to be able to lug around a 20-pound leg, you know, on a stump that's still healing. Yeah, so I would just say that if you're able to, and I know everybody's insurance is different. I know that that takes a lot of account for a lot of things, but anybody that's in a similar situation, the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, that's what's going to make a difference in when you finally get your prosthesis. And I'm still, really early in that. I've only had it for 2 months. But I'm already getting a suction socket. I had a lanyard system, and now I'm getting a suction. So hopefully it'll be more a part of me. That's what he says. But
I
I'm
want to
excited for it.
I want to ask you about a couple terms you meant that you said. First of all, a shrinker, and since I'm not a lower limb
Yeah.
amputee, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So a shrinker is basically so you get swelling in your
Okay.
stump.
Okay.
So this could be immediately after or in your residual limb. You'll have it. And basically it's like a compression sock.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah, no, a lot of I still get used to some of this stuff too. I'm like, the what's it called?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
my
I was going to ask you about the lanyard too. Is that meaning like my upper?
like I pull it from the bottom. So like my I should have brought my leg in here.
That's okay.
But like but
But
yeah, so it's like that, but
okay.
it goes through the bottom of your socket, which is what goes on there. So you pull it and you're able to tighten it and then
Okay.
Velcro it down.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I'm horrible at describing things, so
Oh no, you did a great job. I just wanted to make sure that I understood. And for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube, I just pulled out a prosthetic from the '60s. So that's how old I am. It was the first hook I ever owned. So what is something about being an amputee that you didn't know that maybe you know now?
Um, as far as it goes to amputees in general, I think that we're amazing, one, but I think we're probably some of the most resilient people that there are around, regardless. Um, you can have an amputee, you could be going missing a finger to missing all of your limbs, right? We're like snowflakes. I think I told you that earlier.
Yes.
Not one of us are the same. None of us feel exactly the same. But I have found that we are probably some of the most resilient people in the world. You know, I don't try to bitch about the little things anymore.
Yeah.
Try to, like you said, come out a little bit kinder, treat people a little bit better, be a little bit more empathetic to the people around me, and hopefully they'll be more empathetic to me.
Well, you
You
talked
know,
about the people in your life and how much they really came to help you. And that was not only the person that was on the phone and she came right out to your mom came out, but you were talking about
I have a team. Yeah, no, I have a team. I call them my little guardian angels. I had, like I said, I was new to the Atlanta area when this happened. I was only there for a couple of months, or here for a couple of months. And I had made a few girlfriends, going out, professionals and meeting. And someone who stands out to me not only is Carmela, that's girl I was on the phone with. She's been there absolutely for me, but I have a girlfriend named Dee. And my family, I woke up from my surgery, my second surgery, when they went in and took the rest of my leg. They didn't realize my son's father, his sisters live out here. They're like, well, who's this at the hospital? Like waiting with the rest of the family. She was there from day one, showed up to the hospital. This girl has showed up for me emotionally, been here by my side. We've gone on lunch dates, pushing me in my wheelchair just to get me out of the house. We talk daily, and I've met some of the best people here in Atlanta. And I might have not known her for a long time, but she's absolutely one of my best friends. And I know that God put her in my life for a reason. So definitely her. I have a great church out here. Just have awesome people. And I don't know if it took, for something like this to happen, for sometimes for you to be like, these people are around you, because it's not so many new people. I even had a girlfriend of mine. I haven't seen her in 5 years or so. I've known her for about 15. She flew out and I woke up from surgery. So I had two friends. Well, I've had multiple friends, but I had so many people just show up that I wouldn't even have thought to have called, to be honest, who showed up without asking and were there and didn't care. Anna, she was there. I woke up. She flew in from Las Vegas, came straight away. This girl was helping me out of my hospital bed to go to the bathroom. I mean, someone that I'm like, I would never ask you to do this. She's like, I want to be here, and she gave me a lot of dignity. You lose a lot of dignity being hooked up the way I was. Yeah. At first, I lost a lot of dignity. Everybody's seen every part of me. I've been inspected everywhere. And it was just nice to have somebody that I trusted and that was there for me, where I didn't have a stranger in when you're going through something like this. So yeah, my group of girlfriends, top notch. So, and they make a difference. I couldn't imagine doing this. And, it just being on me or just being on my mom, because they've been there to support her as well. And, our family, really.
Wow. Shout out to your friends. That's a great story. And you cut out a little bit when you were mentioning the church. So what is the name of the church again?
Oh, St. Vincent de Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, over here in Dunwoody. That's the suburb I live in Atlanta. They have just the different the other people that go there have came out, visited with me, go out and do things. They've helped me move furniture because it's a little tough right now. But
yeah. Wish they lived here.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. I've made so many new friends. Just going out and talking to people. My next step, that I want to do after I'm fully healed in my process, is that I want to be able to give back. I feel like so much has been given to me in this moment that I'm going to be in abundance to give back to other people.
I think you're already doing that. And one thing I want to ask is, what is next for you? And I think you're already doing that, like I said, giving back, certainly through your TikToks and other things. But what else are you looking forward to?
I professionally want to do this. I want to be like you, Mr. Mike Boland. I want to, I definitely am getting into a program with Hanger where I will be trained so I can visit amputees that are in the hospital that went through something similar like me. And then
Nice.
also I want to do public speaking. I want to visit people. I want to volunteer my time. Something, out of this. I've done insurance. I've been the insurance lady my whole adult life. I've done insurance since I was in customer service when I was 16, almost 18 years of being in the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm still fully licensed in 14 states, but I want to do this. I have found a new purpose to where I want to be there for other people and I want to live the best life that I can live.
I don't think there's any question you're going to succeed in that, because just because your attitude and the way I could feel your motivation as you speak.
Yeah. Everyone else motivates me on how they treated me, I guess, and it's just something where you got to go back, and it's very humbling to have so many people out of the kindness of their heart just be there for you and genuinely mean it. I want to be that person for other people as well.
Yeah.
It's you get a lot of gratification from that. It's definitely more for me than for them. I guess it's a little selfish.
But I think you are helping. I mean, you get the messages, so you are helping people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's going to be my new passion, and just really healing the best that I can using my prosthetic, being an active mom and being the best mom that I can be. That's my main focus now in the next 6 months is being fully healed physically. And then in the next couple of years, it's up from here. It's only up from here.
I like the way you said that. I believe you 100%. What is something though from November? Was it November 1st? Yeah, it was November 1st of last year to today that you went through. That if I was going to ask, or if another amputee, another one early in their stage, if they ask you, what is the thing that really got you through? What is something that you feel got you through? You talked about friends, but at the end of the day, you're still alone. So what is the thing?
I mean, it's my son. It really is my son. I think I had a very personal near-death experience, and I feel like I could have very easily, I lost enough blood to where they couldn't find the right blood type for my transfusion. So I was without blood. There was a lot of moments in the first week to where it could have really gone downhill, and I might not be here for my little boy. So it's one of those things that it just keeps me going every single day is that little boy. And that I don't like to sound about death so much, but I believe that if I was meant to die that day, that would have been my day. So until I get called home, it's gonna be, it's gonna be amazing. Even on the hard days, I'm gonna be grateful for the hard days. That means I'm still here. You don't know about the lows until you have the highs, and vice versa. But it's not easy by any means at all. It's depression is definitely something that I've struggled with. And like I said, you're lucky when you have the support group and you have people around you. But for anyone who doesn't have people around them, I definitely just advise that you ask for help. I think that's the hardest thing for me. I'm used to taking care of my mom. I'm used to taking care, being the breadwinner, being a provider. To when you're in a position that you're not, you have to know when to ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help. I think the one thing that I'm sure it was before we started is that I didn't want to be looked at like I'm not capable of being able to do something. And just because you need help doesn't mean that you're not capable.
Great point. I think I agree with you so much on that one. And you said something to me, and I wrote it down because I wanted to ask you about it. At some point, I think even currently, you still go with, I want my leg back is exactly.
That's exactly. I call it affectionately my ghost leg, because I still get phantom pains, but I can still feel the whole bottom of my foot, and I'll look down and I'm like, well, where the heck is the foot? I mean, I get so frustrated, or I'll get so worked up, and it's different emotions. And I will, well, I've told this to D. I'm like, I just want my freaking leg back. And I'll get it off my chest and I let it go. And I move forward and get back to what I was doing, figuring it out. I think one of the videos I watched with you is how you work out. You said that you make, how you'll make different systems or different ways for you to adapt, right?
Yeah.
So I'll get frustrated with the way that how things aren't adapting or not being patient enough. But once I let it go and I get that negative thought out of my head, I can move forward. And I think that's big for anybody, is that don't hold it in. Because I did a lot of that. I still do a lot of that a little bit, just because I'm a big believer in fake it till you make it.
I like that saying. If people want to follow you on TikTok, how do they find you? What's your username?
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok. I believe it is Ashley Ramirez LV.
That's definitely what it is on YouTube.
Yes, then that is that.
Okay, perfect. Because I follow you on YouTube. I love what you're doing, and I'll start following you on TikTok now. I don't do as much TikTok, but
I know, that's what I said. It's for the younger people. It took this to happen for me to be like, okay, I guess this is where they're at.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. And I would like to, and I've done this with others, just extend the invitation to come back, especially with where you're at. And I think your knowledge of where you're going and your experiences can continue to, since you want to continue to help people, will continue to help people. And I'd love to have an update with you sometime in the future. Because
absolutely.
You're just doing great things. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. And thank you for supporting the podcast. That means a lot to me personally.
I'm a big believer in you are what you give out, right? Comes back to you in karma. And I think that you do an amazing job with everyone. And like I said, I truly mean it. It helped me when all of this started and I didn't know where to go. And I didn't even know what to search, but I could listen. And I listened to a couple of hours of you and a lot of other people, and it got me through so much. So if I can ever do that for anyone else, I'm just happy for that.
Well, thank you. And to your point, it's more about the stories that are able to be on the podcast. It's the great people. It's the Felicia Robinsons, as I was talking about, the Tracy Lamar, we talked about her earlier. There's so many great people. Dr. Kimberly Emanuel. I mean, these names just come back to me, and they mean so much to me. And again, thank you for the support, but thank you for your time, because I've taken quite a bit of your time today. So thank you so much.
I'm a chatty Cathy, so I think we talked about that earlier. So, but yeah, anytime, Mike. I love it, and thank you for having me.
That was the We're Not Stumped podcast, hosted by Mike Boland. If you want to be a guest on the program, reach out to Mike at his email address, mike@mikeboland.com. This podcast is produced by One Hand Man Productions. If you are looking to start your podcast, go to onehandmanproductions.com.